my dear wonderful friends. Tonight I shall share with you the most powerful secret in all of creation, how to speak to yourself in a way that will completely transform your world in just 3 days. Not in 3 months, not in 3 years, but in 3 days. For you see, the power of your inner conversation is absolute, and it is the only true creative power in the universe. Now, when I tell you to talk to yourself, I am not speaking of the idle chatter that most engage in throughout their day. I speak of that inner conversation that is deliberate, conscious, and aligned with your desired state. For your inner conversation is your consciousness externalized, and your consciousness is God. Consider the words of Scripture. In the beginning was the Word. These words are not speaking of some external deity's utterance. They speak of your inner word, your inner conversation. For you are the operant power, and your inner conversation is the word that creates all things. Many of you come to me asking, Wayne, how long must I wait to see my desires manifest? And I tell you now, give yourself 3 days of proper inner conversation, and you will see your world begin to transform. For 3 is the number of completion in Scripture, and when you maintain the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you set in motion forces beyond your current understanding. Let me share with you exactly how to conduct this inner conversation. First, you must understand that your inner conversation must be from the end. You do not speak of what you want to be true. You speak as though what you desire is already true. This is the great secret that most of the world has missed. When you wake in the morning of your first day, your inner conversation must be from the state of your wish fulfilled. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation must be that of a wealthy person. If you desire health, your inner conversation must be that of a healthy person. If you desire love, your inner conversation must be that of someone who is deeply loved. But then, this is crucial, your inner conversation must feel natural. It must not be strained or forced, for feeling is the secret, and your inner conversation must be accompanied by the feeling of naturalness. Let me give you a perfect example from Scripture. When David spoke to Goliath, his inner conversation was not, I hope I can win, or I will try my best. His inner conversation was from the state of victory already achieved. This is why he could say with complete conviction, this day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand. Now, for these 3 days, you must guard your inner conversation as though your life depends upon it, because it does. Every time you catch yourself engaging in inner conversation that contradicts your desired state, you must immediately revise it. This is not a suggestion. This is a command if you wish to see your world transform. Consider this. Every outer conversation you have is first an inner conversation. Every relationship you have is first an inner conversation. Every circumstance in your life is first an inner conversation. Therefore, by changing your inner conversation for just 3 days, you literally change the entire substance from which your world is created. Let me tell you how to structure your inner conversation throughout these 3 days. In the morning, your first inner words must be from the state of your wish fulfilled, before you open your eyes, before you move a muscle. Engage in the inner conversation of the person you wish to be. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my abundant life. Money flows to me easily and continuously. I am surrounded by prosperity, but remember, these words must not be mere affirmations. They must be spoken with the feeling of knowing that they are already true. Throughout your day, your inner conversation must maintain the same level of conviction. When challenges arise, and they will arise, your inner conversation must remain steadfast. If someone speaks of lack, your inner conversation must be of abundance. If someone speaks of illness, your inner conversation must be of health. This is where most fail in their attempt to change their world. They allow their inner conversation to be pulled into the current circumstances rather than maintaining the conversation of their desired state. But I tell you now, circumstances have no power over your inner conversation unless you give them that power. For these 3 days, you must be relentless in maintaining your new inner conversation. When you walk down the street, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. When you eat your meals, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. When you prepare for sleep, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. Let me share with you a principle that I have tested and proven countless times. Your inner conversation is the only reality. Everything else, absolutely everything, is a shadow of your inner conversation pushed out. Therefore, when you maintain the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you literally create a new world. Many of you may be thinking, but Wayne, 3 days seems too short a time to change my entire world. Let me remind you of the story of Jonah. How long was he in the belly of the whale? 3 days. And after 3 days, he was transformed, and his world was transformed. This is not coincidence, my dear friends. This is law. 3 days of proper inner conversation is all that is required to set in motion the forces that will transform your world. But these must be 3 complete days, not 3 days of wavering between states. During these 3 days, you must guard your inner conversation, not just in your waking hours, but as you fall asleep. For the last inner conversation you have before sleep is particularly powerful. It continues to echo through your subconscious mind throughout your sleep. Therefore, as you prepare for sleep during these 3 days, your inner conversation must be perfectly aligned with your desired state. If you desire a successful business, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my thriving business. My customers are delighted with our services. Profits increase continuously. But remember, and this is crucial, your inner conversation must be accompanied by the feeling of naturalness. It must feel as natural to have this conversation as it feels to speak of what you had for breakfast. This is where the power lies, not in the words themselves, but in the feeling of naturalness that accompanies them. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your outer conversations. Therefore, during these 3 days, you must be particularly vigilant about your outer conversations as well. They must align with your new inner conversation. If someone asks you how you are, your response must come from your desired state. If someone speaks to you about problems or difficulties, your response must come from your desired state. Your outer conversation must be a perfect reflection of your new inner conversation. Many of you may find this challenging at first. You may be tempted to engage in conversations about current circumstances rather than your desired state. But I tell you now, this is where your power lies, in maintaining your new conversation regardless of appearances. Consider the story of Jesus walking on water. What was his inner conversation? Was it about the impossibility of walking on water? Was it about the danger of the storms? No. His inner conversation was from the state of mastery over all natural laws, and his outer world had to conform to this inner conversation. During these 3 days, you must maintain the same level of conviction in your inner conversation. You must speak to yourself as though your desired state is already your reality. Not as though it will be, not as though it might be, but as though it is. Let me share with you how to handle doubts when they arise during these 3 days, and they will arise. When a doubt appears in your mind, do not fight it. Instead, immediately revise your inner conversation. If you catch yourself saying inwardly, this isn't working, immediately revise it too. Everything is working perfectly. My world is transforming now. This revision must be immediate and complete. You cannot allow doubt to linger in your inner conversation. For remember, your inner conversation is the only reality. Therefore, a doubting inner conversation will create a doubting outer reality. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be dominated by gratitude. Not gratitude for what you hope will come, but gratitude for what is already yours in your desired state. This gratitude must be part of your inner conversation throughout the day. When you wake in the morning, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. When you go about your daily activities, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. When you prepare for sleep, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your inner states, and your inner states create your outer world. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of your wish fulfilled. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of wealth consciousness. If you desire health, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of health consciousness. If you desire love, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of being loved. Many of you may be wondering what to do if you slip in your inner conversation during these 3 days. Let me be very clear, you must not condemn yourself. Instead, immediately revise the conversation. Remember, you are training yourself to maintain a new inner conversation, and like any training, it requires practice. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your primary focus. Every other activity must be secondary to maintaining your new inner conversation, for you are literally recreating your world through this conversation. Let me share with you how to structure your inner conversation for specific desires. If you desire a new home, your inner conversation might be, I love living in my beautiful new home. Everything about it is perfect for me. If you desire a promotion, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my new position. It's everything I desired and more. But remember, these are not mere words. They must be accompanied by the feeling of living in that new home, the feeling of working in that new position. Fulfilling is the secret, and your inner conversation must generate the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be specific. Vague inner conversation creates vague results. Therefore, speak to yourself with clarity about your desired state. Be specific in your inner conversation about what you are grateful for, what you are experiencing, what you are enjoying in your desired state. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your self-concept, and your self-concept creates your world. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about who you are, not just what you have. If you desire success, your inner conversation must be about being a successful person, not just about having success. If you desire abundance, your inner conversation must be about being an abundant person, not just about having money. If you desire love, your inner conversation must be about being a loved person, not just about having a relationship. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be continuous. Not in the sense of constant chatter, but in the sense of consistent alignment with your desired state. Every time you become aware of your inner conversation, it must be from your desired state. Let me share with you how to maintain this continuity. Set reminders for yourself throughout the day. Every time you look at your watch, every time you eat a meal, every time you enter a room, let these be triggers to check your inner conversation. But remember, your inner conversation must not be mechanical. It must be aligned with feeling rich with the emotion of your desired state, for it is the feeling that gives power to your inner conversation. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be sovereign. You must not allow anyone or anything to dictate your inner conversation. Not circumstances, not other people's opinions, not past experiences. Nothing must have power over your inner conversation except you. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your expectations, and your expectations create your experience. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must create the highest expectations of good for yourself. Many of you may be thinking, but Wayne, what if my desired state seems impossible? Let me remind you, nothing is impossible to your inner conversation. Your inner conversation is God in action, and to God all things are possible. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about possibility, not probability. You must speak to yourself from the state of your wish fulfilled. Regardless of how probable or improbable may seem to your rational mind, let me share with you how to handle apparent failures during these 3 days. If something happens that seems to contradict your desired state, your inner conversation must remain unchanged. You must speak to yourself as though the seeming failure is actually part of the perfect unfolding of your desire. Remember, your inner conversation is creating your reality, not the other way around. Therefore, no external circumstance has the power to change your inner conversation unless you give it that power. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your constant companion. It must be the lens through which you view every experience, the filter through which you interpret every event, the standard by which you measure every circumstance. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your belief system, and your belief system creates your reality. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must consistently reinforce the beliefs that support your desired state. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be a perfect reflection of the person you wish to be. You must speak to yourself as that person would speak. Think as that person would think. Feel as that person would feel. Let me share with you how to maintain this level of consciousness. When you catch yourself speaking from your old state, immediately ask yourself, how would I be speaking to myself if I were already the person I wish to be? Then revise your inner conversation accordingly. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about what is not, what was, or what might be. You must speak to yourself in the present tense from the state of your wish fulfilled. This is crucial for the manifestation of your desire. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your future, but it does so by creating your present. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must make your desired future your present reality. Many of you may be wondering what will happen after these 3 days. Let me tell you, if you have maintained the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you will have set in motion forces that must result in the manifestation of your desire. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your primary tool for creation. Every other method, every other technique, every other approach must be secondary to maintaining your new inner conversation. Let me share with you how to know if your inner conversation is correct. If it feels natural, if it feels real, if it feels true, even in the face of contrary evidence, then your inner conversation is correct. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be protected like a precious jewel. You must guard it against doubt, against fear, against negativity, for your inner conversation is the very substance from which your world is created. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your relationship with yourself, and your relationship with yourself creates all other relationships. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must reflect the highest, most loving relationship with yourself. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your sacred practice. You must treat it with the same reverence that a priest treats his prayers, that a scientist treats his experiments, that an artist treats his creations. Let me share with you how to maintain this level of devotion. See your inner conversation as your direct connection to the creative power of the universe. For that is exactly what it is, your consciousness in action, creating your world. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your constant reminder of who you really are, the operant power in your world, the creator of reality, the God of your uniqueness. And that, my dear friends, is how you must talk to yourself for 3 days if you wish to transform your world. Not sometimes, not occasionally, but consistently, continuously, constantly. For your inner conversation is the Word of God in action, and it cannot return void. Remember this, your world is your inner conversation pushed out. Therefore, guard your inner conversation for these 3 days, as though your life depends upon it, because it does. So what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue with your old inner conversation, creating the same results you've always created? Or will you begin today, this moment, to maintain a new inner conversation that must create a new world? The choice is yours, but the law is absolute. Your inner conversation creates your reality. Therefore, speak to yourself for 3 days as though your desires are already fulfilled, and watch your world transform. That's the message I want to leave you tonight. Not because it's easy, but because it's true. Not because it's simple, but because it's powerful. Not because it's what you expected to hear, but because it's what you needed to hear. Remember, 3 days of proper inner conversation will transform your world every single time. And isn't that worth thinking about? The world would have you believe that transformation requires fanfare, that success demands announcement, that change must be visible to be real. How wrong they are. The mightiest oak grows in silence, its roots deepening without applause, its branches reaching toward heaven without ceremony. The same principle governs your own becoming. You must learn to build yourself quietly, deliberately, with the same unwavering faith that governs the cycles of nature itself.
Tonight I share with you 5 ways, not suggestions, not possibilities, but absolute methods by which you can construct the life you desire without seeking permission from the world, without requiring validation from others, without waiting for circumstances to align with your wishes. These are not mere techniques. They are fundamental laws of consciousness that, properly applied, will transform your entire existence from within.
The first way you must master is the art of assumption without announcement. You see, most people make the grave error of announcing their intentions before they have established them in consciousness. They declare to the world what they plan to become, what they intend to achieve, what they hope to manifest. But I tell you, the moment you announce your desire to others, you have weakened its power. You have invited dark criticism and the limited beliefs of others to contaminate the pure seed of your intention. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, and this is the cornerstone of all manifestation, you must do so in the sacred privacy of your own mind. You must feel yourself to be what you desire to be. Not what you hope to become, not what you are working toward, but what you already are in the realm of imagination. This assumption must be worn like an invisible garment known only to you in the creative principle that responds to your every mental state. I have watched countless individuals destroy their own manifestations by sharing their inner work with others before it had time to take root in their subconscious mind. They would assume the state of their fulfilled desire, feel the reality of it, live in its truth, and then in a moment of excitement or need for validation, they would share the inner experience with someone who could not possibly understand. The doubt of others, the skepticism of the unawakened would then enter their consciousness like a virus, undermining the very foundation they had been building. Your assumptions about yourself and your life must be protected like precious seeds in fertile soil. They must be nurtured in darkness before they can emerge into the light. When you assume that you are already the person you desire to be, whether that is wealthy, successful, loved, healthy, or free, this assumption must be your secret. It must be lived inwardly with such conviction that it begins to reshape your entire sense of self. The power of assumption lies not in hoping or wishing, but in feeling. You must feel yourself to be what you desire to be with the same naturalness that you feel yourself to be who you are right now. If you desire wealth, you must feel wealthy, not hopeful about wealth, not working toward wealth, but actually wealthy in your consciousness. This feeling, when sustained and protected from the contradictory evidence of the senses and the opinions of others, will inevitably externalize itself in your experience. But remember the moment you announce this inner assumption to others before it has manifested. You open it to their limited beliefs about what is possible for you. They will judge your assumption based on your current circumstances, your past history, your apparent limitations. Their doubt becomes a force that works against your inner certainty. And unless your faith is absolutely unshakable, their disbelief will contaminate your assumption. This is why the wise build in silence. They know that the creative power responds to feeling, not to explanation. They understand that consciousness is the only reality and everything else is simply a reflection of consciousness. When you change your consciousness about yourself quietly, without fanfare, without announcement, you give your new assumption time to take root and grow strong before it encounters the resistance of the outer world. The second way you must embrace is the practice of mental rehearsal in solitude. Your imagination is not a luxury, it is the very workshop of creation. Every day you must set aside time to retreat into the sanctuary of your mind and live from the end of your desire. This is not daydreaming, this is conscious creation. This is the deliberate use of your imagination to impress upon your subconscious mind the reality of your fulfilled fish. In the quietness of your private moments, you must construct scenes that imply the fulfillment of your desire. If you desire success in your career, you must imagine scenes that would naturally occur if that success were already yours. Feel the congratulations of colleagues. Experience yourself in the position you desire. Handle the responsibilities that come with your achieved goal. Make these imaginal acts so vivid, so real, so natural, that they feel more real than your current circumstances. The key to effective mental rehearsal is not to imagine yourself getting what you want, but to imagine yourself having what you want. There is a crucial difference. When you imagine yourself getting something, you are affirming that you do not yet have it. You are living in the consciousness of lack, of wanting, of striving. But when you imagine yourself having what you desire, where you live, in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are impressing upon your subconscious mind the reality of possession, not the experience of acquisition. This mental rehearsal must be done in solitude because it requires complete focus and uninterrupted feeling. In the presence of others, your attention is divided. You cannot fully immerse yourself in the feeling of your wish fulfilled when part of your consciousness is concerned with how you appear to others. Solitude gives you the freedom to experience your imaginal acts with the intensity and reality necessary to impress them upon your subconscious mind. During these periods of mental rehearsal, you must engage all of your senses, but beyond the sensory details, you must cultivate the emotional reality of your fulfilled desire. You must feel the satisfaction, the joy, the peace, the confidence that would naturally accompany the realization of your goal. This emotional component is absolutely crucial, because emotion is the language of the subconscious mind. Your subconscious response, not to your thoughts, but to your feelings. When you can generate the authentic feeling of your wish fulfilled, you have communicated your desire to the creative principle in the only language it understands. The beauty of mental rehearsal in solitude is that it allows you to perfect your desired state before it manifests externally. You can practice being the person you want to become until that state of being becomes natural to you. You can rehearse your success until confidence becomes your default setting. You can experience your desired relationships until love becomes your predominant feeling in the privacy of your imagination. You can become accustomed to living from the end, so that when your desire manifests in the physical world, you are ready to receive it naturally. This brings us to the third way, the cultivation of inner dialogue transformation. Most people are completely unconscious of the conversation that runs constantly through their minds. They allow their inner dialogue to be random, reactive, and often destructive. But I tell you, your inner conversation is the most powerful creative force in your life. Every word you speak to yourself, every statement you make about yourself in the privacy of your mind is an instruction to your subconscious mind. Your inner dialogue is literally creating your experience moment by moment, day by day. If you desire to build yourself quietly, you must take complete control of your inner conversation. You must become the conscious director of your mental chatter. Instead of allowing your mind to repeat the same old stories about your limitations, your problems, your fears, you must deliberately choose thoughts that align with your Z reality. Your inner dialogue must reflect the person you are becoming, not the person you have been. This transformation of inner dialogue must happen in the quiet moments when you are alone with your thoughts. When you are driving, when you are falling asleep, when you are performing routine tasks that do not require your full attention, your mind naturally turns inward. These are the precious moments when you can practice new patterns of thinking, when you can rehearse the inner conversation of your ideal self. Instead of thinking thoughts like, I can't afford this, or this never works for me, or I'm not good enough, you must consciously choose thoughts that assume your desired reality is already true. You must think from the end, not toward the end. Your inner dialogue must reflect the consciousness of someone who already has what you desire, who already is what you want to become. If you desire financial abundance, your inner dialogue must be that of a financially abundant person. Instead of worrying about money, you must think thoughts of gratitude for your financial security. Instead of fear about the future, you must maintain inner conversations about your wise investments and multiple income streams. This is not pretending or lying to yourself. This is choosing to live from the consciousness of your fulfilled desire rather than from the consciousness of your current limitations. The power of inner dialogue transformation lies in its cumulative effect. Every thought you think, a statement you make, is adding to the overall impression you are making upon your subconscious mind. When you consistently maintain inner conversations that align with your desired reality, you are literally programming your subconscious to accept that reality as true. Your subconscious mind, being completely impersonal and utterly faithful, will then work to make your outer experience conform to your inner convictions. But this inner work must be done quietly, privately, consistently. It cannot be a part-time effort or a casual experiment. Your inner dialogue is operating 24 hours a day, whether you are conscious of it or not. If you want to transform your life, you must take conscious control of this inner conversation and maintain that control consistently over time. The fourth way is perhaps the most challenging for most people, the mastery of emotional independence. You see, most individuals are emotional slaves to their circumstances. They feel good when things go well and feel bad when things go poorly. Their emotional state is entirely dependent upon external conditions, other people's behavior, and the random events of daily life. But this emotional dependency is the greatest obstacle to conscious creation. To build yourself quietly, you must develop the ability to maintain your desired emotional state regardless of external circumstances. You must become emotionally independent of the world around you. This does not mean becoming cold or unfailing. It means choosing your emotional state based on your inner vision rather than your outer conditions. When you are living from the end, when you are assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled, your emotional state must reflect that assumption consistently. If you have assumed that you are successful, you must feel successful even when your bank account says otherwise. When you notice yourself reacting emotionally to external circumstances in a way that contradicts your assumed state, you must immediately return to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. You must refuse to let temporary conditions determine your permanent emotional stance. The key to mastering emotional independence is understanding that your feelings create your experience, not the other way around. Most people have this backwards. They believe that circumstances create their feelings. But the truth is that their feelings create their circumstances. When you maintain the feeling of your wish fulfilled regardless of current conditions, you are impressing upon the creative principle the very feeling that will externalize as your new reality. This emotional mastery cannot be achieved through willpower or positive thinking alone. It requires a fundamental shift in your understanding of causation. You must recognize that consciousness is the only reality and that everything else is simply a reflection of consciousness. When you truly understand this principle, you realize that changing your external world is simply a matter of changing your internal world. You begin to see circumstances not as causes but as effects, not as realities but as reflections. In the quietness of your daily life, you must practice holding your desired emotional state especially when your sense is contradicted. This is the true test of faith. Anyone can feel successful when success is evident. Anyone can feel love when love is apparent. Anyone can feel healthy when health is obvious. But the conscious creator maintains these feelings even when the opposite appears to be true. This emotional independence gradually builds a kind of inner strength that is unshakable. You begin to realize that your happiness, your peace, your confidence, your joy are not dependent upon anyone or anything outside of yourself. You discover that you can generate any feeling you choose simply by assuming the state that naturally produces that feeling. This realization is incredibly liberating and incredibly empowering. The fifth and final way is the development of what I call selective attention through conscious ignorance. This may sound paradoxical, but it is absolutely essential for building yourself quietly. You must develop the ability to ignore what contradicts your assumption and to notice only what confirms it. This is not self-deception. This is the conscious direction of attention toward the reality you are creating. Your attention is your most precious resource. Whatever you consistently pay attention to grows in your experience. If you pay attention to lack, lack grows. If you pay attention to problems, problems multiply. If you pay attention to what is wrong in your life, more wrongness appears. But if you pay attention to abundance, abundance increases. If you pay attention to solutions, solutions manifest. If you pay attention to what is right in your life, more rightness emerges. The practice of selective attention requires you to become consciously ignorant of anything that contradicts your desired reality. When you see evidence that seems to oppose your assumption, you must look away. When people speak words that contradict your inner conviction, you must not let those words enter your consciousness. When circumstances appear to deny your wish fulfilled, you must refuse to acknowledge their reality. This is not about being naive or refusing to deal with practical matters. This is about recognizing that your attention is creative and choosing to focus it only on what you want to create. In the quietness of your daily life, you must train yourself to notice only what supports your assumption and to ignore what opposes it. For example, if you have assumed that you are financially prosperous, you must notice every sign of prosperity in your life, no matter how small. You must pay attention to the money you do have, not the money you lack. You must focus on opportunities for income, not obstacles to wealth. You must observe. Examples of prosperity are pride of you, not exam poverty. This selective attention gradually shifts your entire perception of reality. At the same time, you must develop conscious ignorance of anything that contradicts your assumption of prosperity. When bills arrive, you do not deny their existence, but you do not dwell on them or allow them to generate feelings of lack. When others complain about financial difficulties, you do not join in their conversation. When the news reports economic problems, you turn your attention elsewhere. You become consciously ignorant of lack because you understand that whatever you focus on expands in your experience. This practice of selective attention must be maintained consistently and quietly. You cannot announce to others that you are ignoring certain aspects of reality because they will think you are being unrealistic or irresponsible. But in the privacy of your consciousness, you must be absolutely ruthless about protecting your attention from anything that contradicts your desired reality. The development of selective attention through conscious ignorance requires great discipline at first, but it becomes natural with practice. You begin to automatically filter out contradictory evidence and automatically notice supporting evidence. Your perception begins to align with your assumption. And as your perception changes, your experience follows. This selective attention also applies to your memory. You must learn to remember only those experiences that support your current assumption and to forget those that contradict it. This is not about lying to yourself about the past. This is about choosing which aspects of your past to keep alive in your consciousness. You must remember your successes and forget your failures. You must remember when you felt loved and forget when you felt rejected. You must remember when you felt confident and forget when you felt insecure. Your memory is not a factual record of events. It is a selective interpretation of experiences. By consciously choosing what to remember and what to forget, you are literally reshaping your identity. You are building a new sense of self based on the experiences that support who you are becoming rather than who you have been. These 5 ways: assumption without announcement, mental rehearsal in solitude, inner dialogue, transformation, emotional independence, and selective attention through conscious ignorance are not separate techniques, but interconnected aspects of a single practice. The conscious creation of reality through the disciplined use of imagination and feeling. When you assume without announcement, you protect your desired reality from the contradictory beliefs of others. When you rehearse mentally in solitude, you make your desired reality familiar and natural to your consciousness. When you transform your inner dialogue, you continuously reinforce your new assumptions. When you develop emotional independence, you maintain the feeling of your wish fulfilled regardless of circumstances. When you practice selective attention through conscious ignorance, you gradually shift your entire perception to align with your desired reality. These practices must be maintained quietly, consistently, persistently. They cannot be intermittent efforts or casual experiments. They must become your way of life, your natural approach to consciousness, your automatic response to every situation. In the silence of your daily existence, away from the noise and distraction of the world, you must work on yourself with the same dedication that a craftsman works on his masterpiece. The beauty of building yourself quietly is that it allows your transformation to happen naturally, without resistance, without opposition. When you announce your intentions to the world, you invite argument. When you try to change your external circumstances directly, you encounter resistance. But when you work on yourself internally, quietly, consistently, your external world has no choice but to conform to your inner transformation. Most people approach life backwards. They try to change their circumstances in order to change how they feel. They try to get love in order to feel lovable. They try to get money in order to feel secure. They try to get recognition in order to feel worthy. But this approach puts them at the mercy of external conditions over which they have no direct control. The conscious creator reverses this process. Instead of trying to get in order to feel, you feel in order to get. Instead of trying to become in order to be, you be in order to become. You start with consciousness, with imagination, with feeling, and you let the external world rearrange itself to match your inner state. This is why building yourself quietly is so powerful. It allows you to work directly with the creative principle without interference from the limiting beliefs of others or the contradictory evidence of your senses. In the sanctuary of your own consciousness, you can assume any identity, experience any reality, feel any emotion. You can literally be anyone you choose to be and experience anything you choose to experience. But this inner work must be balanced with outer action when such action is inspired. Building yourself does not mean becoming passive or inactive. It means that your actions flow from your assumptions rather than from your circumstances. When you have assumed the consciousness of your desired reality, you will be naturally inspired to take actions that align with that consciousness. But these actions will feel effortless and natural because they will be expressions of who you have become in consciousness rather than desperate attempts to become who you want to be. The person who builds themselves quietly becomes a mystery to the world. Others cannot understand how they remain so calm in the midst of chaos, so confident in the face of apparent obstacles, so joyful despite difficult circumstances. They cannot see the inner work that is being done, the assumptions that are being maintained, the reality that is being created in consciousness. This mystery is part of the power. They are not suggestions for your consideration, but imperatives for your transformation. If you truly desire to change your life, if you genuinely